3, 2, 1. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Your Call to Action. Today I'm with Geordie Frost from Bank Digital. How's it going, Geordie?
Pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. It's nice to have you onto the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So, Geordie, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, I'm Geordie. I'm from Bank Digital, like you said. I am a customer experience director at Bank Digital, and so that involves looking at the strategic side of brands and how they engage with their customers and the sort of entirety of the customer journey. And I guess from an e-commerce side, we have a lot of different e-commerce clients that we deal with, and personally I also have a couple of different side hustles in the e-commerce space that I work on. So yeah, e-commerce is certainly something that I have a fair bit of experience and a passion for.
Awesome. So you said you work for Bank Digital.
Yep.
What do they do?
So Bang's a digital marketing agency. It's been around for almost 15 years now. So we started off in the search engine optimization and Google Ads space, and slowly over time we kind of worked towards other parts of digital marketing, email, social media, web development, that sort of thing. And yeah, in the past couple of years we've kind of seen the opportunity grow for more customer experience and more of a broad understanding of how customers engage with their brands. And yeah, so we've transitioned into a lot more work in that sense, and that's involved kind of conversion rate optimization from a tactical perspective, and also journey mapping and a lot more research and really understanding how customers engage with brands and businesses, and how businesses kind of try to solve their problems at the respective stage of the customer journey.
Yeah, cool. And that's probably what we're going to be talking about a little bit as well today, about customer experience.
Yep.
But before we get into that, what got you into digital marketing in the first place and e-commerce?
It was pretty organic to begin with. So I was working at Curtin University, just in the customer service team when I was a bit younger, and I had the opportunity to do a temporary contract in the alumni department, and that was doing email marketing and a bit of web design, and that kind of really sparked my interest at that point. And then from there, I was like, all right, I can't really go back to anything else from that point onwards, and so then I kind of looked to expand my horizons, and I initially worked at Bang about 7 or 8 years ago, and that was my first role outside of Curtin, and that was kind of diving in the deep end of digital marketing, and it was jack of all trades, master of none kind of role, and so that would be doing some SEO stuff, be coding websites, be working on email development, graphic design, that sort of thing, and that gave me an opportunity to diversify my skill set, which was really great. And so that was how I really cut my teeth in digital marketing, and I've kind of grown from there, and I went in-house and worked for Watercorp, then I am back at Bang in my current role. In terms of my e-commerce experience, I think it was just like a passion for the analytical side of e-commerce. So, one thing with lead gen businesses is that you can't directly see how the work you're doing is impacting the bottom line. Whereas with e-commerce, you can say, all right, if I change something on the website, if I run a split test here, or if I change an ad copy, whatever it might be, I can see the revenue go up or down, or conversion rates and that sort of thing. So the real one-to-one correlation between action and result is something that I think is really awesome. And if you send out an email or run a campaign and you see the revenue go through the roof, that's a really sort of exciting feeling. Whereas getting leads through the door, also exciting, but then you have to understand converting leads into a sale is a more challenging process.
Exactly, 100%. So a little bit talking about CX, or customer experience.
Yep.
I guess on a high level viewpoint, what is CX, or customer experience?
Yeah, so CX to me is the way that customers engage with a brand or a business at every touch point and stage of the customer journey. So that's kind of like the top level definition of it. I think it can be thrown around as a buzzword a bit, particularly in marketing circles, like, got to optimize the CX and make this super sexy CX. That grates a bit, but at its core, it's basically about effectively solving the problem of the customer at the various stage of the journey that they're in. So, and the problems that customers have with businesses that they want businesses to solve can change over the journey. So it might be something
small
when they are first looking to engage with the business, and then it expands as it goes on. And that's not just an e-commerce thing. That's just across all businesses. But yeah, I think understanding CX is probably the most critical element that businesses don't really think about, because it is a real long-term strategic process. Yeah, exactly. And you have to really step back from the operational stuff and the tactical side of things and say, okay, what am I actually trying to achieve? What do the customers want? And you have to put time and energy into researching stuff, and that costs money, and that takes time off the tools. So for e-commerce businesses, particularly when they're relatively small, that can be hard to find that time to do when you're putting out fires and you're just getting orders sent out and that sort of thing. So.
Exactly. So for those who don't really know, what does it involve? Customer experience optimization.
What's optimization? So I guess, like I was saying before, the first step is just research and understanding what your customers are trying to achieve at the various stages of their journey. And so a traditional customer journey spans from when the customer is first understanding that they have a problem that they need to solve, to understanding more about your brand and how your brand can help them solve their problem through making a purchase and becoming an ongoing customer for life and an advocate for your brand. So that's kind of the truncated version of a customer journey. Optimizing that involves understanding, so like the customer journey is the macro level, understanding the micro components that go into those respective stages, and then trying to find out what the friction points are for the customers and how you can eliminate as many of them as we can, and make sure that every step of the way it's as easy as possible for them to complete the task at hand. So whether that's in an e-commerce context, I guess from our perspective, the sale is the primary task that we're trying to get customers to achieve. But the customer, at least in the first instance, might just be looking for information about a product. So that might be the task in the awareness or research phase. So we need to understand that and say, we're going to provide value by answering your questions early, so you build equity with the brand. And then we're not going to ask for a sale at that point, but then you trust us to know that our product is going to be good down the road. So it's about understanding what customers want to do at various parts of their journey, and kind of fulfilling those.
Catering for those things.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Because not everyone will go onto an e-commerce store, see a product that they like, even though they really, really want it, they're not going to go and just buy it. You know what I mean? They'll shop around, do a bit of research in there. What's the benefits of this website? Maybe they'll even go to the shipping page and see how long it takes to stuff arrive. There's heaps of stuff that's involved in the research phase. Yeah,
exactly right. And the reality is that for even the best performing e-commerce sites, 95% of people who go to the site aren't going to buy a product. And that's just a fact. So you say, okay, what are those customers there to do if not buy a product? And is that a failing of the website to convert them, or is that a failing of us as businesses understanding what they want? And so that's kind of the key differentiation there. And so if you say, okay, maybe they want some educational content, or to find out more about the product, or are just browsing, that's also cool, but you need to understand where they are in their journey, and then kind of cater what you're going to do next accordingly.
So how can e-commerce business owners evaluate their CX?
I think at a really basic level, in terms of metrics that are easily available, conversion rate on the site is a good one. So if you've got a high conversion rate on your site, that's a fair indication, or like a fair proxy that the customer experience is good. So if you're converting at just 5%, which is like a generally good conversion rate for e-commerce sites, then that's a solid indication that either your product market fit is great, or that your customer experience on site is pretty strong. So I think that's probably the primary one in the context of the website. beyond that, I'd look at something like customer lifetime value. So understanding if customers come back and keep purchasing from you as a business, then that's probably another strong indicator that they enjoy your products, enjoy doing business with you. It's relatively easy from a customer experience perspective. And so in terms of hard metrics, they're two that I'd look at.
Yep.
There's other things you can look at in terms of customer surveys and get more qualitative data. So that's certainly stuff that I would build into the customer journey at various stages, and not just after the fact and say, how is your product or how is your experience, that sort of thing, but also trying to get people who don't purchase. And if that's like pop-up survey on the website as people are closing their browser and say, hey, just before you go, we'd love to hear what you're here for today, and just get little bits of information as you can. I think there's a whole set of tools and measures that you could do, but I think basically straight off the bat you could go conversion rate and customer lifetime value as really good e-commerce metrics.
So how can you turn a negative customer experience into a positive one?
I think empathy is the first one. So kind of like the ultimate customer experience is one that feels like it's a one-to-one personal thing. So if you are able to replicate a one-to-one experience, and whether that's like walking into a store or on the phone or whatever it might be, where you're talking to a human being, they're able to easily empathize with your problem, take your information and solve it on the spot. That's a perfect customer experience. So the question is like, how can you replicate that in a digital context and scale it? So that's kind of like the ultimate customer experience. So turning bad problem or bad situations into good ones, that's actually a really great opportunity. So people might look at poor reviews or feedback or like challenging customers as a bit of a pain in the ass, and it can be, but you want to say, all right, from this, if I'm able to flip this person into having a great experience, their contrast between the bad and the good is going to be quite stark, and so you'll be able to get a really good feedback, like really good review and feedback from them. And in addition, in the process of that, you can take those learnings and say, okay, why was this customer struggling? Was that something that was specific to them, or is it something that is happening across the business and I'm only just getting visibility of it because of the feedback from this customer? So I'd say negative feedback and negative customer experiences are more valuable than positive ones. Positive ones are just like reinforcement, and that's a bit of an ego boost, and that's great, but and it's great for reviews and things like that. But in terms of fixing challenges in your business and eliminating pain points and removing friction, when you get people saying, oh, this product didn't work, or no, it's too hard on the website, you're like, okay, sweet, sorry that didn't work, here's how I'm going to resolve it, and then go away and fix it so the next person doesn't have the problem. And if you get 100 different ones like that over the course of 6 or 12 months, then all of a sudden, your site is operating really, really smoothly, and your conversion rate will go up, and that goes back to kind of the measures of customer experience success.
It's almost like you need those negative experiences to make your site better, which actually makes complete sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you go through like an extended period of time with no negative feedback, then probably no one's using your product, or probably no one's like on your website, and that's a real concern. Like the biggest, best companies in the world that have hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars invested in CX, they're seeking out negative feedback so they can fix the problems. So sometimes it's hard to deal with, particularly if you're tied to the product and the business and your own business, and it feels like a kick in the guts and something personal. It's not that, it's just that that's an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So probably the next thing I want to talk to you about is your own e-commerce site. So you run two. You run Cook Island and Cook Cooch. So what's been your experiences with running both stores at the same time?
Well, I actually run a third business as well, but that's not e-commerce. But I think my experience has been probably I have bitten off more than I can chew, particularly with a full-time job. So yeah, they started out as side hustles, and they were both things, well, all of them are things that I'm very passionate about. But I think the biggest learning was, just in terms of context, I'm certainly a person who is like, sees opportunities and then like, oh yeah, we should do that, we do that. And I commit to too many things and am not necessarily able to follow through in the same way that I would like to. And so I think one of the biggest learnings would be to kind of focus on one and not spread myself too thin. That being said, like the thing with your own businesses on the side is there's no inherent pressure from anyone else. So it'll just go as far as you want to take it. So yeah, I guess it started off with the Cook Island, which is the party shirts. And so that was born from me just enjoying wearing sort of bright, colourful party shirts. And because I'm so tall, like I'm 6'6", 6'7", and it's hard to find good fitting party shirts. Generally, when you go up in sizes, they go out instead of long. So yeah, I was like, I was doing my research, and there's clearly a market for extra length shirts, or just like, longer fitting shirts, and just like in the bold, colourful prints I liked. So yeah, that was how that one was born. And in terms of the transition from that into Kook Pooch, which is a sort of matching brand of party shirts between dog owners and their dogs, and so there's party shirts for dogs. Yeah, so that was born from the COVID pandemic. So in the first instance, it was like, obviously when everything started to shut down, I quickly came to the realization that for party shirts, there's probably not going to be that many parties over the next 12 months. And a lot of them were people buying them for festivals and stuff like that. And as an industry, that just disappeared. So I had to quickly pivot from that point. And one thing that I'd been looking at previously was, like individual prints that were prints of dog breeds, because dog owners are so passionate about their different breeds, and so I thought that'd be a really engaged market. So I did a bit of research and put a survey out. I think it was about 150 different people, and I said, okay, like if I had a party shirt print with, I think it was pugs that I did the survey on, pugs printed on there, would you buy the shirt? And came back and it was like 95% of the people surveyed said yes. So that was pretty good there. And then I threw in, I actually wasn't intending to do matching dog shirts in the first instance, but one of my mates mentioned that he would buy one for his dog. So I threw a question in saying, would you buy a matching one for your dog? I think 87 or 89% said yes. So virtually everyone said that they would buy a matching pair, even if they weren't necessarily like people who wore party shirts normally. In the context of the relationship between them and their pet, they certainly wouldn't. And that was kind of an eye-opening thing for me. And so that was when I pivoted, and I was like, okay, well clearly here's a market. I just need to get some dog shirts and get some dog design. So that's what I've been focusing on for the last 12 months.
Yeah, nice. So you spoke about you working full-time and then a side hustle. Is that the reason why you wanted to start an e-commerce store to begin with, or was it just like a learning thing?
Oh, I think, I have a voracious appetite for learning. And so I really do try and take in as much information from everywhere as I can. I don't think it was necessarily like the motivation for starting the store. I think it just was born quite organically, and I was interested in it. And I've always been interested in e-commerce stuff. So like for a couple of years, I had been looking for an opportunity to do something along those lines. And that was just the one that like aligned with my personality, my interests, and then the actual practical side of it. So that was how it panned out.
Nice. So what has been the biggest thing that you've learnt when running an e-commerce store?
Get the product right. That's probably the biggest thing. Coming from a digital background, a lot of my approach to pretty much everything was minimum viable product. Like get the MVP out there, iterate, optimize, test and learn as you go.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really work when you are getting shirts made in China in bulk. And if something stuffs up, then you're like, oh, now I've got 400 shirts and they've got something wrong with them. So it hasn't bitten me so hard that it's breaking me, but there have been moments where there have been challenges with the product, and because I've tried to go to market too quickly. And so I've done research around the marketing and the audience and the design, but not about the actual development of the product itself. And so that was a real learning for me coming into it.
Yeah.
So for all the stuff around like marketing, website, that sort of thing, that's cool, but if you don't get the product right, then it's just going to turn into a shit show down the road, and you're going to get returns and bad feedback, and it's not feedback that is actionable necessarily, because you've got a bunch of products that are sitting there, and like you can't optimize a shirt after it's a bit too small. That's kind of the biggest learning. Beyond that, I guess the second one would probably be influencers and the power of influencers. And we heard it anecdotally with different brands that we were working with at Bang, but we never had like an influencer campaign that we were running ourselves. And then with the dog shirts, I thought, I'll give it a crack, and I'll reach out to a couple of people and just send them some products and go for a review. And I think it was either the first or second influencer, and they didn't have like a massive following. It was about 50,000 on Instagram, so it was like a middling audience, but they perfectly aligned with my product. And they posted a video of them wearing it to both Instagram Reels and TikTok. And I think across the two platforms, it got about 3 million views. I just had a massive spike in sales, even though I wasn't really ready for the TikTok. Like they couldn't tag my account up because I didn't actually have a TikTok account. So I was certainly not prepared for that and didn't take advantage of it as much as I could have. But you go through and there's, like I said, millions of views on TikTok, and there's about 700 comments, and I reckon 500 of them are saying, I love this shirt, where can I get it? And thankfully, the influencer had gone through for most of them and said, search Kook Pooch, that sort of thing, and did their best. But I think there was a big opportunity for me to kind of fix that. And I guess that was kind of the real moment of clarity for influencers being a big part of my strategy. And they won't work for every brand. Like, if you're B2B and you're talking about mining equipment, you're probably not going to get a Kardashian to promote your mining equipment. But for specific brands, the power that they can hold is just unreal because of the lack of expense on the entry point, particularly those lower level ones.
Micro ones.
Yeah, exactly right. So those ones, it's mostly just about sending out a product and saying, hey, I'd love some feedback. I'd love an honest review, and if you're happy to share with your audience, and that would be great. But if you're not comfortable with that, so be it. And so it's $50, $100 out of our pocket, and then the potential return on investment is far outweighs anything you could get with traditional paid ads. So and that was a real eye opener for me in that sense. And seeing the views go up from thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, it's just like, whoa, that's something right there. So that's probably the other big learning, like the power of influencers for the right product.
Nice. So final question is your call to action. So to end the podcast, we ask our guests to provide a call to action to inspire listeners to do something to build their e-commerce store for the week or for the month, whatever it is. So what is your call to action?
I'd say ask your customers more questions. And so think about, like we were saying earlier, think about what they're trying to achieve by engaging with your business. And it's not necessarily about the sale. Like the sale is what the business is trying to achieve. but the customer is trying to achieve something different. And so if you can drill down and understand the core motivators and drivers behind why they're engaging with your brand, then you can shape your value proposition accordingly. And I think that's something that people don't necessarily do effectively in e-commerce. I think a lot of it is around getting the product out there, showcasing the product, the features, sometimes going to the benefits, that sort of thing. But understanding, okay, why is a person buying this hair roller or whatever it might be? Is it because they need a new hair roller, or is it because they want to feel good about themselves? And so understanding what the motivators are is really critical to tapping into like the psychology of engaging with the customers. And I think that's kind of like the next tier of thinking once you've got your product and your website all sorted. And you think, okay, how am I going to acquire these customers, and how am I going to talk to them in a manner that aligns with what they're trying to achieve?
That pretty much wraps up the podcast.
Awesome.
Just trying to do any shout outs or anything.
I'd may as well say g'day to Brad at Bang, and he's obviously a friend of KeepSpace. So yeah, g'day Brad.
Nice. All right, well that pretty much wraps it up, guys. Until the next episode, we'll see you around.